There you go.
Hey, Wood Talk is alive.
Sweet. Good news, everyone. See, I don't get the notifications.
I did.
That's
Because
upsetting.
you're the owner guy.
That's right.
See right there.
Nice.
Ta-da.
Well, at least you guys know. That's important. All right. Did you
At
pick your
least we
question?
know to watch our language now.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh,
Where do
I
you
think
get
I
your
have
horse butt?
too many memory cards here. So now I'm losing track of what footage I shot on what card.
too many memories.
Yeah, that must be it.
That's what I'm saying. When I look at my shop, too many memories. Gotta get out of here. All right. No eating chips on the show, dude. What are you doing?
Seriously.
Getting all greasy
least-
hands all over the place. What's going on there? Chomp,
Make
chomp,
sure you
chomp,
hit
chomp,
mute
chomp.
at least. All right, it looks like he's muted at least.
Chomp, 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 chomp. Don't mind me. Chomp, chomp, chomp. Because nothing sounds better in a microphone than eating chips. And that is just a fact, folks.
I think it sounds better than my laugh while eating chips.
Yeah. Oh, I want that on time. Okay. All right, let's do it. No better time than the present.
Welcome to Wood Talk, for woodworkers by woodworkers. Now here are three guys who, if combined, would make one hell of a woodworker. Mark, Matt, and Shannon.
All right, it's Wood Talk number 328 for October 10th, 2016. On today's show, we're talking about learning to sharpen saws, shop lighting options, and where do you get your horse butt? Everybody knows you go to the horse butt store. Doy. Today's show is sponsored by Brusso Hardware. Brusso provides high-quality American-made woodworking hardware for furniture, cabinets, boxes, and more. Wood Talk listeners can use coupon code WOODTALK, that's WOODTALK, for 10% off your first order at Brusso.com. And we've got a whole bunch of people to thank, so let's do that. These are folks who helped us out either by PayPal donation or Patreon donation. Joseph Polsky, Sochet Su. Now let me tell you something about Sochet. He was in the shop this weekend. Yesterday, in fact. I had a little guild party. I'll tell you about it later. But I asked him, I'm like, how do you pronounce your name? Because I know I'm not pronouncing it properly. And he told me, and I said, I will not remember that. But I think I got it. Sochet Su. So, and
But I asked.
yeah, he was awesome. He gave me a Dunkin' Donuts gift card. Right? If you want to make
wow.
you want to make a friend quickly with me, that's how you're gonna do it. So there's a man who knows how to get it done. Wade Hutchison, Mike Oxlong, Doug, Charles Fackler, George Foreman, Seth Williams, Ed Fisher, Reese Yonts, Ryan Renard, Ben Minchell, Scott Whitner, Vinny Jojo, Chris Holzer, Kevin Kittinger, Michael Waleski, Chris Richardson, Brian Morawski, and Nick Travis. Thank you so much, everybody, for helping us out. Yeah, nice list, right?
Nice.
Lots of people.
Yeah, and if
Hey,
you want
and
to...
Charles Fackler, Semper Fi, buddy.
Okay. And if you want to help out too, you
Absolutely.
can. Just go by, go to...
Sure, what he said.
Yeah, what he said. Patreon.com/woodtalk is where you could learn everything about the whole Patreon system and what it involves, what you can get back for helping us out. And you know what? I think we hit another milestone, right? Another goal since the last time we recorded, and that is the weekend show. So that
Woohoo.
either our third or fourth goal at this point, we just kind of crushed them very quickly. And this means the weekend show is going to return. And
more goals.
yeah, we got to come up with new things. Yeah. I don't know what else we could put on there. But so yeah, the goal was reached. That means starting in November, I believe, we are going to add an additional show each week. Those of you who have been with us for a while probably remember we did this in the past. Hold on, Bert.
Right about when Mark's moving, we're going to add an additional show.
It's really the perfect time. You know, I got nothing else going on.
What else have you been doing?
Yeah, I got nothing else going on. So, so this whole weekend show thing is basically us picking either like a singular topic to really flesh out in detail, and even an opportunity for us to discuss something that's not directly woodworking related, maybe indirectly, or having to do with some of the stuff that the three of us do to sort of make our websites go. I know that's not of interest to everybody, but remember, this is an extra show. So if we do go into stuff that we're kind of interested in, you have to give us a little bit of leeway to have fun with that. But it still is a woodworking show by three woodworkers, and we will always sort of stay true to being in that woodworking-focused topic. But once in a while, we're probably going to talk a little bit of off-topic. And I know some people really love that. So, can't please everybody all the time, but we'll do the best. Bottom line is we want to have fun too. And sometimes those other topics are very fun for us to discuss. So we hope you enjoy it. We'll start that up in November. But until then, we'll just continue with our normal weekly show, even though I'm moving. And I don't even know if I'm going to have a shop to record in. It's going to be a mess, but we'll make it happen. All right, so let's...
You might have to deal with, like, just a single car garage for a while.
No.
Like the rest of us schlubs.
At this point, there's going to be the garage conversion. You know what? Let's just get into what's on the bench because that's what I'd be talking about anyway.
Just go there.
Let's just say we're there. So the shop information, the electrical stuff, that saga continues, and I think finally we've reached an end to it. So we did have a complete electrical workup on the house, and it is got plenty of power. There's ample power to do what we need to do. The electrician said that he'd be happy putting in a 125 amp sub panel, which should be more than enough to do what I need to do. So that is actually going to be mission number 1 when I get there, is try to keep the garage as clear as possible because I'd like to do the conversion as quickly as possible. So I'm not going to sort of even try to work in there until the shop is ready. So my hope is that we'll be able to get the electrical done. I'll be able to do whatever I'm going to do with flooring, with the walls, insulation if it needs it, heater, of course. And it won't be until those things are in that I actually start setting up tools and trying to produce content and projects from that space. So there may
Good
be...
for you for remembering the heater.
Oh yeah, well,
What a foreign idea.
Well, the thing is, when you go from Arizona, obviously you're thinking of cooling, which I am bringing a mini split with me, so I will have. Yeah, I'm taking one with me. It's just going to put it over my shoulder and trek it on up to Colorado. But I do realize it gets damn cold there, and I might, need to pay attention to that. And my, finishes and things may freeze, which is something I'm not used to. But yeah, so heater is definitely high on that list so that I can work through the cold winter. So once that's done, then I'll start powering up the tools. So, I'm really not even going to make a go of it until I have something that resembles a functional shop that I can start powering up the tools. And that probably won't be for a while because who knows? A lot of this is outside of my control. Contractors and getting people in to do work in a shop is something I don't have much control over. So, but other than that, I did have a guild meetup, which was kind of like worst timing possible. It was right in the middle of packing up these pods. Trying to get all that work done, and yesterday we just
Sounds like perfect timing. Didn't you, wasn't that part of it? Like show up and help pack the shop?
Yeah, everything's right over there, guys. I've organized the heaviest stuff to the left, so gentlemen, I hope you've been working out. Actually, we finished all of the heavy stuff, and we were just doing the fine-tuning of like the last-minute things, cleaning out the house and stuff like that, so I didn't put anybody to work. But man, it was so cool. Like, this is the second time we've done one of these local sort of meetups, and it really is the guild. And I think in terms of like, all right, when you look at how many woodworkers there are in your particular area, and then subdivide that into woodworkers who follow you on your free site, and then subdivide that further into woodworkers who might sign up for like the hand tool school or the guild. And you're talking about as tiny, tiny small subsections and a niche within a niche within a niche. And there's still like 25 people that show up to this thing. It's mind-boggling. If you ever doubt anyone who makes content, you doubt the reach of what you do and whether it's worth it to do it, the sheer numbers of it, it's just mind-boggling and humbling to see how far this stuff can go. So it was just really, really cool to have people stop in. We had it was very low-key, like we weren't in a situation to do much, so we had water and cookies and basically just hung out in the shop and talked about woodworking and got to know everybody, let everybody else get to know each other. It was a whole lot of fun. Definitely a good way, a good send-off to sort of close out this chapter for us. So had a good time.
That's cool.
Yeah, good fun. But other than that, my life is packing boxes and trying to keep my son sane. This sort of upheaval of his life at 5 years old is not very fun to deal with. So trying to keep him stable. So I'm either packing boxes, building a clock, or trying to keep my kid from destroying the house. So that's it for me. Matt, what do you just to let you know, what I'm reading here in the show notes sounds like a presidential candidate's euphemism or something. So go ahead and say what it is, because that's funny to me.
Pressing apples?
Pressing apples. Yes.
Wow. Only in this election.
That's about as far as we'll get into the political talk, but
you gotta laugh, people. That's all you can do right now.
You don't see the humor in it, then it's all depressing.
I don't care what party you support, you just gotta laugh right now.
Yep. All right, so tell us about your apple pressing, Matt.
Oh man, it was great. So last week I finished up building the apple press and the accessories for it, and then yesterday I actually got to try it out. My friend who kind of brought the project to me came by with 6 bushels of apples, and he taught me how to use this thing.
Whoa.
We made 18 gallons of juice. It
Jeez.
was crazy.
What do you do with all that?
I don't know. He's gonna take it and ferment it, but he left me like a gallon to like drink.
Nice.
But it was a lot of fun. I'd never done that before. Never seen it done. It was really cool to like, because as I was building it, I kind of had an idea of like how it was supposed to work, and then like you see it in person, like, oh, that's how it actually works.
Yeah.
And I made this.
So most importantly, how did the juice taste?
Oh god, it was so good.
Was it really?
It was really good. Like I'm not like super into apple juice, but I'm super into this apple juice.
Yeah. Was is there a
good.
certain type of apple that is specifically used for juicing that tastes better than other apples?
So we did a blend.
Okay.
We did Cortland and I forgot the other one already, and then crab apples to get a little more tart.
Okay.
And it was awesome. So I guess
Nice.
you can kind of blend whatever you want. And the funny thing is, like, as you're going through and prepping the apples, you're like, you can really use whatever looking apple you want for this. It's all
Yeah.
gonna get mushed up
Even if it's
anyway.
like starting to brown already, you could just
So I'm
throw
like,
it in.
I wouldn't eat this, but I'll squish it.
Yeah. Sweet. Oh, dude, that's awesome. I wish I could have some. I'm gonna have to go get some apple juice now.
There you go.
Well, good deal, man.
Eat
That's
it,
awesome.
but I'll squish it.
I'll squish it.
No, that's disgusting. All right.
That's the show title right there. All right. Well, while you were pressing apples, I got to thinking. We had this conversation, I don't know, a couple episodes ago about clamping up panels, and I had made a panel clamp using Veritas hardware a while ago, and I still had another set of it. And I was thinking, you know what? I'm going to make another one of those because I've got another big panel glue up to do, and I thought, you know, why not pull that thing out and revisit it? And I used some reclaimed lumber.
Nice.
This is what a guy who works at a lumber yard calls reclaimed lumber. It's material
It's my
that,
doctor.
for one reason or another, got whether it had been left out or it had just gotten really, really old. There is kind of a shelf life for some of the stuff on the yard, and after a while, the moisture content climbs or it gets a lot of exposure to the elements or whatever, and becomes kind of unsellable. Well, the good news is you know, it may be gray on the outside, but like one tiny little pass of a hand plane, and suddenly you have fresh material underneath it. It's
Right.
like, you know, a 64th of an inch deep, if probably less than that. You've got fresh wood showing up there. So I grabbed these 10 to 11 quarter. It's probably one of the other reasons it was an odd thickness. Really gray, beat up, wormholes, checked all the hell pieces of lumber. All about, I want to say about 8 inches wide and 10 to 11 quarter thick. And started ripping them to make these kind of 2.5 by 2.5 bars for the panel clamp. And the Veritas hardware, you create those bars and then you drill a bunch of holes in it, and the hardware slots into those 3/4 inch holes, and it not only clamps laterally across the glue joint, but as you clamp, it actually kind of sucks the bars down, so you get clamping on all 4 directions. So I start ripping this, and I realized that this is some sort of African red-ish wood. You know, it's kind of hard to say as I'm ripping it because it's gray on all sides. So then I start planing it, and I go, oh, look, this is sapele. What do you know? So my reclaimed lumber to be made into clamps was suddenly sapele. So yeah, I'm sure I will catch some flack for making panel clamps out of sapele. But, you know, to my credit, I don't think I could have used it for anything else because it was pretty beat up.
Yeah.
There were a lot of wormholes. There's a lot of checking in this. So this is one of those things that's nice because the panel clamp, really, you just need a reference face on the inside. So the upper bar and the lower bar, you have a reference face that goes against the work. The rest of the faces, who cares? You know, they can be as beat up and banged up and everything. So as I was planing this stuff down, and I did the whole hybrid method where I got one face kind of sort of flat so it didn't rock. Then I ran it through my Grizzly planer, and like, you know when you run a piece through the planer and it's like, zzz, like hear something
You
break
never
off,
want to hear
Like,
that?
oh, great.
you know, bounce around a little bit and then get sucked up the tube, and then you hear it bounce off the impeller, and I'm like, oh geez.
Yeah.
And you go to the other side of the planer looking to see, is it still in one piece as it comes out? Well, several of those checks, the grain was running one way, but the check was running the other way. So as I'm pushing it through the planer to go in the right grain direction, the check was in exactly the wrong way. So it rips out like this enormous chunk. So one of my calls is perfect, nice reference face with an enormous divot out of one side of it. It's like, okay. So I started to feel better about using this nice Sapele, reclaimed Sapele to make shop panel clamps. Not that I should really care. I mean, my tool cabinet's made out of Sapele and cherry. So, but still, it was nice. It was, that stuff had been sitting back there since as long as I can remember. I've been at the yard for 6 years now. And it's just been like sitting out, not even under a tarp, all the way back in like the no man's land of the lumberyard. So I just picked it up and gave it new life. So there we go. Exciting.
Reclaimed, you turd.
Yeah, reclaimed. It was reclaimed from a pile at the back of the yard.
It was never used to begin with.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
One other point, if I may, I'm kind of curious to hear you guys' thoughts on this. I've been contemplating dust collection for a little bit. My dust collector is just way too big for my shop. The garage door actually jams on it when I open it. It's too tall, and it's constantly bumping into the thing, and it's unseating the canister and everything. And I've been thinking this is kind of stupid. I don't need this big of a dust collector in a shop where the only power tool that I use it for is the planer. And chip ejection from a planer is pretty. You don't really need a lot of suction on that because it shoots out the.
It's already coming out, yeah.
Ready. So I've got one of those wall-mounted rockler thingies. I had it for years and years and years, and I actually took it down because it ended up being redundant. And I didn't like it that much because the bag system has a real bottleneck to it. The bag itself clamps down to that, whatever it is, 6-inch output, which means when you take it off and try to dump it, all those chips in the big part of the bag come down to that bottleneck, and it's impossible to empty the thing, at least for my kind of chips. I think if all you had was dust, from a power tool, it would be
Sure,
right. But,
sure.
So I just ran across the fact that now Rockler sells a canister, like a pleated canister filter for this thing, which then takes a regular big plastic bag underneath it. So I'm actually thinking about doing that, but that means going from a 1.5 horse down to a 3/4 horse. I don't know what the whole CFM thing does and everything like that, but I mean, footprint wise, just mounts on the wall and it would be like probably 4 feet tall. If I set it so that the bag kind of rides on the floor, I just think it's kind of a no-brainer. But it's a $200 filter. So it's kind of like I can't just go, no big deal. It's $200. But I don't know. I just, for one machine, I can't imagine that 3/4 horse is going to not going to give me the CFM that I need.
I think you've got the best case scenario for that, given your usage habits and the tool that you're trying to use it on. Like
that's got a short run,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't have that long of a run in the shop. It's not that big. So I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds to me like it would work.
I think I might go for it just because it would free up like the whole front corner of my shop.
Do it, man. Do it.
All right, I'm doing it.
Go do it.
Spend your money.
Yes.
Just needed to say it out loud.
Go play in that reclaimed lumber.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's move into what's new, and this actually is sort of related to what you were talking about with the panel clamps. I didn't put it in the show notes, but I thought I'd mention it. Did you guys see Andy Klein's video on his panel clamps? He basically did a modification to the standard parallel clamps that we use, like the Bessie and Jet style clamps, and putting a curved head on one end that causes, as you put the pressure in, causes it to sort of squeeze the bars down on one another. So I think he had discussed that in the past, and this is like version 2 of what he's trying to come up with. So it's really cool. Go check it out. Andy comes up with some really neat ideas. I think he's it's one of those guys who you just like to swim around in his brain for a little while to see the world the way they see it. To identify problems and then come up with the solutions for them. Very cool stuff, so go check that out. Next thing I have here is sent to me from Kevin Jacobs, and he said it's an animated GIF of complicated Japanese wood joinery. And this is really cool because a lot of these crazy interlocking joints that only assemble a certain way, and once they're together, you can't really see what's going on. And it's done. It looks like it's just using SketchUp animation to make these things happen. But you could see how the parts are cut, interlocked, and how it goes together and comes apart. Just an animated GIF thing. So check it out. Definitely cool.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's neat.
I love Japanese joinery. It's always one of those things where it's like, I just want to make the joints There's absolutely nothing to build with it.
Right.
I'm going to sit there and like make the joints just to say that I could. I don't know what I would use them for.
Yep.
But yeah, that's pretty sweet. Well, last week we talked about a guitar making video, this hour-long video that was kind of cool. Well, Brandon found another one, and he says this one starts like a Japanese action series and then just hooks you. So that in and of itself was enough to make me click through and start watching this.
Sold.
And Japanese TV, man, wow, that's some crazy stuff. Wow, like, you just gotta go watch this. There's the host or MC or whatever of the show. The camera work on it is just wonderful. Lots of like extreme close-ups and like very dramatic things. And then of course there's some really cool woodworking as this guy builds a guitar.
Nice.
It's like the Virtuoso series or something like that. But it does remind me of like Kung Fu theater with like from the 70s. So there's definitely some disco going on in there. So,
Very cool.
Or checking out. It's a different twist on your average guitar making video.
Yeah. Awesome.
Next one here, I got here from Brian. This is a article he wrote on his blog about how to price your time or your shop rate if you're doing woodworking for a living. I thought it was really well done. It walks through like all the different things you got to consider, like how much you want to make per year, and then you got to factor in how many hours you can work in a year, and figure out how many hours per week you spend on stuff that's not billable to your clients, all that fun stuff, all the overhead of your shop, and how to go about finding an actual rate that you can have for your shop, and then whether or not the things you bid out are actually worth your time. So that was really cool.
Cool. Brian's a good dude. He does some of the SketchUp work for the Wood Whisperer now, and he actually donated him a little shout out there. Yeah, very, very kind of him to do that. All right, let's get into our kickback here. First one is from Andrew, and he says, I also, we talked about the handle breaking, the torrefied handles one show ago, and he says he also had a torrefied handle break on him. He says, I was abusing it. I had to use my handheld rotary tool to remove the torrefied remains, which was a pain in the... But it looks as good as new now. I don't think I'll be pounding on it like that again. So interesting. That's two people so far.
Two people. It's an epidemic.
It is. Watch out. It's like does Samsung make torrefied wood? But all right. So real quick, let's talk about our sponsor today, and that's Brusso Hardware. I happen to have a set of Brusso hinges right in my hand, a hinge, I should say, and you could probably knock out a small child with this.
Great.
Not that I recommend that's what
what I want to hear happen.
You have some small children, Mark.
You want me to test this out? I don't think Nicole would be happy with me.
Show us, Mark.
But you could do some damage with this thing. This is heavy. This is very, very heavy. So I was looking for hinges for the grandfather clock, and I really wanted to go with Brusso's stuff. And I found this beautiful hinge. It's got the nice little round dealy whackers on it. And it's just, as with any Brusso hardware, it's just so well built. And you put it in your hand, you know exactly why these things aren't cheap, not just in quality, but cost I'm talking about. The absolutely beautiful craftsmanship and so easy to install because it's so predictable. We've talked about that in the past about Brusso. Is one of the best things is what you're in for when you're installing these. It's predictable and consistent thickness all the way across each leaf, and it just looks gorgeous. So I was very happy with it. Talked to Brusso and I said, hey, I need these hinges pronto, yo, because I gotta move out of this place. And and I got four sets, and these are going right into the grandfather clock. So super happy with them. Actually, the ones I have are PH001 if you're looking for this specific part number. But really super high quality. And I haven't done hardware installation in, I don't know, quite a while, actually. At least one that I needed just like butt hinges. So it's been a while, but man, every time I use their stuff, it's absolutely the best experience I've had with hardware is when I use Brusso stuff. So really good.
It's a really kind of stupid, silly thing, but one of the things that has absolutely nothing to do with the hinge itself, but the packaging.
Yeah.
The little plastic bag that it comes in is like subdivided. So like it keeps the screws and everything together. I was just doing hinge install the other day, and it's like oh my God, this is so nice.
Yeah.
Like, other places you open it, everything all comes out together, and that's got like just a neat little touch.
Well, and you've got the screws banging around inside the package with the hinge, possibly scratching the hardware at the same time. But you're right, you can open it up, and people watching the webcam, you could open it up, get access to the hinge, but your screws are still nice and secure because obviously we don't need these right now, and I won't need them for a while, so it's nice to have them separate. That's a really, really good point. So anyway, you want to go to Brusso.com to check them out, and Wood Talk listeners can use coupon code WOODTALK for 10% off your first order at Brusso.com. Go check them out. Good stuff. Brusso Hardware. Let's get into our voicemail. First one here is from Tom. Oh, this one's interesting. Hold on. I'm new to this. Let me get my Skype thing. Where are you, Skype? This is so confusing, guys. I'm sorry. All right, here we go. So Tom is looking to do something just really weird with shellac.
Good day to you, gentlemen. This is Tom from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. I have a question about an atypical finish additive. I'm considering adding insect carapace to shellac. A friend of mine owns a scorpion, and as Mark certainly knows, scorpions molt. Also, there are thousands of cicada husks about every year, and my day job puts me in a unique position to be able to harvest them. I grind them up into a powder and add it to the shellac. I understand that the alcohol won't dissolve the carapace, but I think it might make an interesting light refraction in the finish. My question is, do you think the carapace will react poorly in any way to either the shellac or the alcohol? My idea is to finish a box that's made with a dragon's claw burl veneer with a scorpion shellac, mostly because it sounds cool. And I'm considering calling a friend that owns snakes for the skin, but the same reservation about potential reaction is still in my mind. Thank you very much, guys, and have a great day.
It's kind of, it's cool, but it's got to be the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
You know,
I think one of the things you have to worry about is setting off some sort of spell that would raise the dead.
Yeah.
By adding all those animal parts. And
you want to know?
Stir them in a cauldron.
Yeah, you want to know where the zombie apocalypse started? When the first guy put scorpion carapace into shellac, and then suddenly a zombie outbreak is out of control.
I want to go back to the scorpion as the pet.
He has a pet scorpion. His friend has a pet scorpion.
Didn't know that was a thing.
Of course it is. Anything that's alive that's not human can be a pet. Everyone knows this.
Okay.
Well, even a rock can be a pet, and that's not alive. So, all right. So he's got a carapace. Well, and I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing, like he says, it probably isn't going to dissolve in alcohol. So the only way to get it to do anything is to probably grind it up into a powder. You do that, and I guess you'd have to put quite a bit. If anything, it's just going to go into suspension. It's not going to dissolve, and you're just going to have carapace schmutz in your shellac. Like, would it not just act like a flattener in a way, just to give you a little bit more of a matte finish?
That's what I was thinking.
If you grind it really fine,
it'd have to be really finely ground.
Have a textured surface.
Yeah. It's just going to be almost like a grit, right? Almost like if you're putting it on something that you want gripability to, you would put this kind of powder stuff in there. But I don't know. It's such a weird thing.
I think you'd have to go to the consistency of flour in order to make it act as a flattener. Otherwise, it's just going to be gritty.
Yeah, because that's the whole thing with flatteners. They're in there, but when it settles to the bottom, you could see it. But once you mix it up and it's in solution, you don't necessarily see it, right? Like once it dries, the whole point is you feel like you're still seeing through it, but it's clearly those flatteners are what's causing the light to reflect and or sort of the way the light reflects changes, and it's not as bouncing into your eyes the same way. But you're not actually seeing individual particles. None of us have vision that good. In this case, it's like, could he get it ground fine enough to get it to that point, or is he not looking to do that? Does he want to have this scorpion cast off of material visible in the final product?
Well, and I guess the other question is maybe it would dissolve. I don't know. You could just try.
I don't think it would. Because isn't like a carapace like chitin or like a bone product? So it's going to have like a lot of calcium in it in all likelihood. Right. And I don't know that that's necessarily, at least not in the short term, going to dissolve in alcohol. But again, I don't really know. Anyway, I don't think we have any answers for you, Tom, because this is a weird question. But
yeah,
let us know what you do.
I like it.
Because a scorpion finish, scorpion shellac, sounds fantastic.
Seriously.
Let's think about what else we can.
Man. You could buy one of those like resin kits that you
Mhm.
get in like pin turning catalogs, and
Yeah.
you could make something out of it. You know?
Isn't that what
Put your
Zach Higgins
scorpion
does
bits in.
all the time? You guys know Zach from Nevada
Right.
Woodworks. He does all
Mhm.
kinds of crazy stuff in resin.
Nothing this crazy.
Well, dude, he lives in Nevada. He can get him some scorpions. Let's do it, man. Put that on your list. See what you can do with it. All right. So next question here is from David, and this is actually for Shannon specifically.
Hi, Shannon. This is David from Woodland, Washington. I had a question specifically for you about a treadle lathe. I have this treadle lathe that I got, no kidding, on the free Craigslist in my area here. Anyway, I'm having problems finishing it up. The guy who started it did a pretty good job, but the design wasn't exactly right. It's a Roy Underhill design, and the axle of the flywheel is a steel rod that goes to a crank, and the rod connects to the flywheel through a couple of fittings, galvanized fittings that look kind of like you'd use for electrical conduit. And there is about a 3/16 hole sort of pressed through both sides of the fitting and through a corresponding hole in the steel rod axle that you put a pin in. And it worked okay, but the treadle he had was a single foot, just basically a piece of board on a hinge. And I redesigned it to be all the way across so I could do longer work and have better leverage. And now what I'm coming into is that those two holes, and with the fitting and the steel axle, are working like they're bolt cutters, and they are shearing through any kind of pin I can put in there. I've tried, high tension pins. Obviously a nail will cut through it almost like butter. And I've even tried to use part of an old Allen wrench that I put in there. And I'm not saying that my treadle is perfectly in time, because occasionally you get off the rhythm. But after 5 or 6 pumps, it just chops right to that pin. Any suggestions on what I can do? Is there a different way I can connect the axle to the flywheel and therefore, change how I'm powering the wheel? Let me know. Appreciate your help. Love the show, guys. Been listening for years. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Okay,
Right.
Shannon. I didn't listen to any of that, so go ahead.
This is a good question, David. I ran into a similar situation. What he's talking about here is the flywheel will spin freely on the axle, and you have to attach the flywheel to the axle so that when you rotate the axle, the flywheel goes with it. Otherwise, you're just rotating the axle, and that doesn't do you any good. So I remember when I designed mine, I stupidly used a pair of cotter pins. Now, they were heavy-duty cotter pins, but yeah, it was the same type of thing. They were sheared in half in like 30 seconds. Because what you're dealing with is every time you press down on that treadle, unless you get the timing exactly right and the force vector exactly right, it's a jarring motion. You might get your timing so right that you're just kind of subtly adding a little bit of push to that wheel, but ultimately there's a little bit of play there when you first push down where it kind of smashes into that point, and it will shear off just about anything you stick in there. There are a couple things you can do. You can secure that the wheel to the axle itself through either a flange plate or something like that, where you're actually screwing that flange plate into the flywheel, and then you're screwing the flange plate into the axle. Now, you could run into the same situation there, but you can buy hardened steel rods. They're precision steel rods. You can get them at McMaster Carr that will slip through there. That could work for you. The other thing, and this is what I ended up doing, I went to McMaster Carr looking for like a high strength pin that would work, and I just kind of accidentally landed on tapered, what do they call them? Tapered alignment pins, I think. These are very, 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 very hard, high tensile machine pins that are meant for this particular application. They're meant to slide into the axle and keep a flywheel from rotating on it. The only other option I can think of is actually keying the axle, where you've actually got a piece that's inset into the axle itself, and then that piece then registers against the flywheel. But if your flywheel is made out of wood, which is I suspect it is, eventually that's going to deform and break out. So I'll dig up the part number and I'll drop it in the show notes, but I've been using those tapered pens now for 2 years and I've never had a problem. And if you do have a problem, they're like dirt cheap. Like when I bought them, I got them in a bag of like 8 and there's only 2 of them. So worst comes to worst, it'll wear out on you after a year and you just pop a new one in. I think I paid $12 for 8 of them. So there is an element of the disposable to this. Any machine is going to have parts that wear out on it, and that is your weak point of the entire system. So don't feel bad. You're not the only one having that problem.
Good stuff. All right, let's get into our email, and picked a few good ones here. First one is from David Trump. He says, for shop lighting without video content production considerations, what are your recommendations now? Fluorescent or LED? Hanging or ceiling surface mounted? With or without a lens on the fixture? How many fixtures? An online calculator indicates that the ideal is 18 2-bulb T8 fixtures for my 350 square foot shop space. Seems like a lot of light production. Mark, what do you do differently in your next shop? Thanks. So this is actually something I have been thinking about a lot, and I don't know that I'm going to, adequately answer all of his questions because I'm not, that well versed in lighting. But I think even if you are filming versus not filming, it's still the same concerns. If you've got good enough lighting for video production, then you're going to have great lighting for a work environment, because here's the thing, you want to be able to see what's going on. If it's dimly lit, it's harder to work in that space. You can't see details, you can't see flaws and things like that. So good lighting, be it for video or just task lighting for doing things, it's important in both cases. And a lot of times the same things we want in video will help accomplish the same goals, just as a woodworker would be concerned with them. So the actual color temperature of the light, even before I was doing any kind of filming of my work, I really liked daylight spectrum lights because I wanted to get as natural of a look and as much color accuracy as I could on not just the wood, but stains and finishes, stuff like that. So that said, this online calculator sounds, maybe it's, is it the same site that is selling you the fixtures? Because that seems like a lot, right? 18 fixtures for 350 square feet. I counted what I have in this shop. I've got 1,800 square feet, and I only have 22 fixtures. So I don't know if, what the story is, but now, could I use more than what I have here? Absolutely, I could take a little bit more, but that really does start to cater to the video side of things. For just regular work, this is a really well-lit shop, and I don't know that I would need anything more than 22 at this point. So when I move, the shop, at least if everything goes through with this house, has 2 light bulbs in it, in the garage, or maybe 3 if I'm lucky. So I've been thinking about this exact question of LED versus fluorescent. And I'm just wondering, is now the time? Is it time to jump into the world of LED? Have prices come down enough to justify making that change? Excuse me. So I was watching, speaking of Andy Klein, just mentioned him before, I was watching his shop series that he did when he moved to the Denver area, coincidentally. And he has one dedicated to the lighting, and I'll have to put a link to that for you guys to check it out. But he's dealing with, what's the company's name? American Green Lights. And it's basically LED light strips. They take about, the 4-foot span that a regular fluorescent fixture would, except for it's just a small strip of LEDs. Now, in his shop, he's in a basement. So he's using something in once like a really, really low profile, because any, drop that you get from a fixture is loss in height that he'd have to worry about. So he's able to attach these strips right to the ceiling without like this big fixture, because he takes all of, what do you call it? Is it the transformer? The little black brick?
The AC to DC
transformer
yes, thing.
Yes. Exactly. So he takes all the transformers, puts them in one singular box, and then runs the single line of 110 power to that box, and then distributes to each of the lights using like doorbell wire. And so talk about a super low profile solution with lots of great light. And so to me, LED is totally the way to go. It's a very pleasant light to work in, assuming you get a good quality and the right color temperature and all that stuff. And of course, the energy requirements for it are a really nice thing. It's not going to require nearly as much power. The drawback to it is $120 a fixture. Right. Wow. So if you compare that, the last time I bought lights like I've got in my shop now, Home Depot had banks of 4 for T8s, where you get four 4-footers in there, and those fixtures were $75. So I don't know what the current pricing is, but that was consistent 5 years ago, and then again when I did another change, it was about the same price. So significantly more money. But if you're looking in the long term, you're going to be in there a lot. There's energy savings. How long will it take you to recuperate that cost? That I don't know. But I do think it's if you're putting in new, maybe not replace all your old stuff, but if you're putting in new, you probably should make that choice. That would be the time to do it if you're going to do it, to consider LED. So what were the other things? So lens, I don't think that's really that big of a deal if you wanted to. I've never had, I guess, well, actually, when the $75 fixtures from Home Depot do have plastic, sort of screen in front of it to just kind of diffuse the light. I don't know that that's really necessary. I don't have anything here in the shop. It's just the raw bulbs, and that seems to work out just fine. And again, with the mounting, that just depends on your ceiling heights and what you can take. So if you could just mount direct and it hangs down a few inches, fine. The LED system that Andy did, 1/2 inch was the most he got as far as coming off of the ceiling by 1/2 inch. That's incredible.
Wow.
What I've got here is probably at least 4 inches. I would say 4, maybe a little bit more. Now my ceilings are high enough that it's not an issue, but depending on your shop, it might be an issue. So, to sum up, definitely consider LED if you've got the budget for it. I think the light is better. The long term is better on it. You won't be replacing bulbs. Like I've actually got 2 or 3 that are out right now that I need to replace before somebody takes over the shops, with these T8s. So I do think LED is a good thing. But look into it. Check out that one company that Andy recommends, American Green Lights. They look like they've got some pretty good products, and it's simple. Like that's one thing that I find when I look at LED, I get confused very quickly as to like what is applicable for what I'm trying to do. What do I need to make it work? Watch Andy's video, go to that website, and you'll see the product he used, and it all suddenly seems a lot simpler. But I do think it's time to consider LED. So that is it for me. Shannon,
Nice.
You're next.
I like it. I agree. I like LED.
Cool.
I like them a lot. So Paige had a question on our Patreon page. It says, hey fellas, I'm just getting into hand sawing after taking a weekend class at the Port Townsend Woodworking School. Shout out. I was wondering what files Shannon uses for his hand saws, and if he has any tips for beginning sharpeners beyond learning on a good saw before restoring antiques. Sure. The files I have used Grobet, I've used Nicholson, and I'm now using the kit that I got from Lee Valley, which I believe are Bahco, Bahco. Yes, I believe that is the case.
Mm-hmm.
I have heard from many people like, oh, the Grobet files are terrible, and oh, the Nicholson files are terrible. I honestly can't tell the difference between any of the ones that I've used, and let me preface that by saying I really don't do that much handsaw sharpening. I mean, I've got a lot of handsaws, so there is a little bit of that. Or, oh, that's dull. Go pick up that one. But I mean, I'm sharpening maybe once every 6 months on some of these saws. So, so far this year, I have sharpened maybe 5 saws. So I do believe that's the difference. I think some of them, the lesser quality files, just wear out faster. So, personally, I think the Lee Valley set is good because you can buy the whole kit and get the little tool roll and everything, and it's only $48. Because one of the other things people have when they're first getting into saw sharpening is, well, what size files do I get? And I think instead of going and buying a specific size file, thinking, well, that will work for this saw or this saw, you're better off having a selection, because the files themselves are not actually labeled. So a 6-inch slim versus 6-inch double extra slim, you may not actually know the difference. So then a chart tells you, well, use a 6-inch double extra slim here, and you go, okay, which one's that? Ultimately what you end up doing is choosing the size of the file based upon holding it up to the teeth. And you want the file to be slightly more than twice the depth of the gullet. So you drop the file in the gullet, and you want to have more file above the tooth point than below it. And that's what you go with. Frankly, you can get a little bit more fine on that, but when you're first starting with saw filing, there's no reason to really think beyond that. So if you've gone out and you've bought 1 or 2 files and you drop it in there and you're like, oh, that's not right. You drop another one, oh, that's not right. So spend the $45 or $48 or whatever it is at Lee Valley and get the whole kit. Plus you get a mill file for joining and a handy dandy little keeper to put them in, which is kind of nice. So your files aren't banging into one another and getting really dull. So that would be what I would recommend. And then you get the Baco files for that. As far as beginning sharpeners, yes, I do believe starting sharpening on a saw that someone else has already sharpened is a really good idea, because then it's kind of maintenance sharpening. You're not doing any shaping or anything like that. So you take the file, you put it in the gullet and kind of press down, and that file will adhere to the geometry of the tooth that's already there. So once it kind of settles and it feels stable, then you push forward. And it's almost like training wheels. You get a real feel for that at first. But if you wanted something kind of in addition to that tip, relax, frankly. There is so much written now on the amount of rake and amount of fleam and tooth geometry to make the best perfect saw. Ultimately, what you want to do is focus on just getting sharp teeth. So you'll joint your teeth and you leave those little flats on top of the teeth. Just focus on removing those flats. If you can throw in some extra geometry here and there, that's nice. But, if one tooth or 17 teeth have slightly different rakes from the teeth around them, it's not the end of the world. And I think too many people are focused on getting every tooth to be exactly identical. Yes, ideally, that's what we want. But ultimately, you're going to get, just eyeballing it, you're going to get pretty close. You might be off a degree here or there, but that's not going to change dramatically how the saw functions. So your best deal is just do it. It's one of those things where you'll be like, why did I put this off? Because it's really not that hard. So there you go. Just do it.
Do it, yo. Just do it. Hey, I just wanted to say that Matt Vanderlis, although he's not on the show anymore, is doing his best to get on the show right now.
Seriously.
By texting me and Shannon and showing us, if you're watching the video, you can see this, pictures of his leftover Dave's barbecue dinner. Yeah, so we both got it, and he's teasing us with it just to make sure he gets on the show.
I love their mac and cheese. They're the best mac and cheese.
They don't do anything wrong. That place is so good.
Now I'm hungry.
Pudding.
I know, that's the problem. I'm looking at the picture, I'm like, crap. Now I'm going to have to go get some takeout. Yeah, we're done.
Way to go, Vanderlist.
Nicely done, Matt. All right, Matt number 2. What's going on?
Hello. I just want to say quick, going back to Mark's question that he answered, definitely err on the side of too much light than not enough, because I added a bunch of light around my workbench specifically for filming, but now the rest of my shop feels so dim, and I don't know how I got anything done without adequate lighting beforehand.
Yeah. It really is a relative sort of thing, right? Like, until you experience what it's like to have that extra light, you don't even really know what you're missing. But then once you see it, now you're just like, well, geez, everything is so dark in here.
I look around, that side of the shop is really dark. But the nice thing now, especially working on the bench with all that light there, is there's no harsh shadows. There's no, you can see everywhere. There's no shadows on anything, so you can really see exactly what you're doing. You can see your lines really easily. It just makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, I wasn't... go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'll say for reference, around my bench I have 18 T8 bulbs in that quarter of my shop. So that's half of my one-car garage in that one little quarter of my shop. So it's about 100 square feet.
Okay. 18 individual bulbs or 18 pairs?
18 4-foot bulbs.
Okay, gotcha. So 9 pair.
So 9 pair, yep.
Cool. Very good.
It's an interesting perspective, because I'm on the opposite end right now. So maybe it's just that I don't know what I'm missing.
You don't know what you're missing.
You really don't.
You don't know.
You need to see the light, Shannon, is what needs to happen here.
I see what you did there. That was witty.
You're welcome.
All right, this question is from Eric. He says, "Hey, horse butt users, what's your source for horse hide for your strops? I have heard horse hide really makes a positive difference as compared to veg tanned cowhide. And which dropping compound have you found works best? Thanks for the great show. Makes my mountain bike rides go by faster." The only place I've seen it sold is from Tools from Working Wood. I'm sure you can get it at an actual leather place that specializes in fancy leathers. I haven't used any other form of strop, but I know the people who have used it before and then switched to horse butt said that it does work differently or better. I don't know objectively how much of a difference it makes. The horning compound, subtle.
It's very subtle.
Subtle but good.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think it's harder. Is that kind of?
Yeah, there's just less flex in it, less give.
The strapping compound I use, I've only used the green stuff. That seems to be working just fine. I don't know. Shannon, anything else? Other butt user?
Yeah, I can't tell the difference.
Another
between
butt
the green
lover?
and the yellow. I've got the yellow because it came with my little flex cut carving kit, and then I have the green on like the rest of the strops. And yes,
What's the yellow? Is that what
I don't
color?
know.
Oh, okay.
It's just
All
a
right.
yellow crayon. It
Okay.
seems to work just as well as the green one.
Nothing
you know?
but the best information from Wood Talk.
Yeah, it's got less of red dye number 4 in it than the other one.
Yeah.
So now, I'm sure there is a difference. There's for some reason the flex cut people like to use the yellow for the carving chisels.
Is that
And
finer?
I've seen other carvers using yellow, so possibly it is finer, but I don't know.
Okay.
I just have not been able to feel a difference. I'm still getting sharp tools. I can still slice things open and bleed lots with either tool from either stropping compound.
Well, speaking of slicing things open, the next little email extra that we're going to do for our $4 patrons and higher will actually be on avoiding cuts in the shop. So, maybe don't sharpen things quite as much. How's that? Yeah, so if you want to tune in for that, definitely step up to the $4 patron level. It's just a quick added little piece of content that we put in there for you if you're interested in it. And I think that's really about it for today's show. If you want to support us, you can. You could set up that recurring donation over on the Patreon page, patreon.com/woodtalk. You could head to the TWW store and pick yourself up a Wood Talk t-shirt, or you can go to iTunes and leave us a review. That costs you nothing but a couple of minutes. Look us up in the iTunes store, click on ratings and reviews, and give us a 5-star rating if you want to. We appreciate that. Like George Pag did, he says, Woodworking for every man. This is one of the best, if not the best, woodworking podcast available. Every podcast is filled with practical, useful woodworking techniques and methods of work. Matt, Mark, and Shannon, I'm not sure about that order, make make woodworking accessible. Heck, they have day jobs. No, one of them doesn't. Two of them don't, right? I guess. Oh, so one of them has
during the day.
Technically, one of them has a day job and work in garages just like us. Well, one of them doesn't. Maybe I shouldn't nitpick this. He's complimenting us.
Stop nitpicking.
I just don't want to take false credit for something that's not true.
If you think about it, Wood Talk is the night job, and then
Yes.
the others are the day job.
That's true.
Okay. all
Yes.
This is my third job.
Yes, that's a good point. Reading a glossy
right. Show
magazine.
us up.
Right. Reading a glossy magazine filled with advanced techniques and examples of the highest level of woodworking shows you how far you have to go. These guys actually help you get there, in spite of the corny jokes and puns. What? We never do corny jokes and
spite.
puns. That's crazy. I thought it's like, that's an added bonus as far as I'm concerned. That's like a Patreon level reward. Is more puns.
And there's our next milestone.
Yeah.
Fun show.
More puns.
It'll be Mo Punny. All right. Well, thank you for
wow,
listening,
that was
everyone. Shannon, why don't you give them the contact info and we'll get out of here.
Comments, questions, topic suggestions, pun submissions. There are several different ways you can contact us. You can leave a voicemail on Skype. That's Wood Talk Online. Or you can call our voicemail line at 623-242-5180. Or you can use our fancy contact form that we might ignore at woodtalkshow.com/contact. And go to our website, leave a comment on this post, or find us on our Facebook page and talk to us there too.
Yep.
So yeah, that's it. Or go to our sites, woodwhisperer.com, renaissancewoodworker.com, and mattcremona.com.
You know what we should add to this as well, just as a regular thing, is the live stuff that they can catch us live every Monday at the YouTube live page. Just,
I think you just did.
No, well, we put a note in there so you don't forget next time. That's how it is. Production note.
Now.
Right now. Do it now.
Win.
All right. Well, thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
All right. So I got the next one queued up, and we will do it right now.
They're right now saying, you want to go to Famous Dave's?
I'm trying to figure out here. Let me text Nicole and see if there's any way we can make it happen. Any way we can get Dave's takeout? This problem is now we're like living at my mom's house, and I'm here, so I'm not like able to help with the kids as easily, and it's a mess. It's a whole thing. So 328 extra, and we're keeping it anonymous, Shannon.
Yeah, and Matt didn't specifically say that, but I just feel like
It's a personal thing.
yeah. I mean, I was, and if you want, I can do the intro on this, but I just felt like rather than say, well, his leg's in a cast and he had an embolism and came with an inch of losing his life and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, let's not get into that.
You know, for one reason or another, he's on blood thinners.
Okay.
And is essentially hemophiliac for the next 6 months.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Well, hey, everybody who's listening live, we appreciate you sticking with us, and we're gonna stop doing this thing right now.
We're pretty sticking with goodbye.
Yes. Goodbye, suckers. No, but seriously, thanks for watching. Looking at our three faces for an hour has got to be rough.
See you next week.
Peace out, my friends.